Hello, welcome to yet another video of Acharya Nidana Academy. Today, we are going to discuss some of the major three concepts that are required to be known if you want to learn Ayurveda from scratch. That means Ayurveda or Roganidana from scratch and Roganidana from the beginning. If you want to have the learning, then you need to have these three concepts little bit elaborate manner we have to learn. So, before going into that particular concept, let us know something about the basic concepts that we are going to learn as usually. First concept, if you know about the PCB, that is physics, chemistry, and biology, from the current conventional science, and we are knowing the fundamentals of Ayurveda, any of the concept described in Ayurveda can be learned with the deepest understanding. Second concept, so we have to practice the concept of minimalism. Minimalism in the sense we have to take one small topic, then we have to gain the knowledge from different angles. That means we have to go for the brainstorming of that particular session from the point of Ayurveda, from the point of the physics, from the point of the chemistry, from the point of the biology, from the point of the uh, metaphysics, etc., etc. So that is we are going into the do the brainstorming from the different angles so that we can have the deepest understanding of that particular topic. Third, if you know about the each and every concepts of Kriya Sharira, then learning Roga Nidana is very easy. If you are knowing the each and every corner of the Roga Nidana, then learning or practicing Kaya Chikitsa is not at all a difficult thing. It's a very easy thing, right? Then, fourth thing. So the motto of this academy is identifying a pattern. So that means whenever if you are looking into that any knowledge or any information, try to look into that particular pattern. What pattern is going to get observed so that we can able to modify the pattern for the benefit of the mankind, and we have to do some kind of pattern creation again for the benefit of the mankind. So for example, if a person is taking sour buttermilk for the past 7 or 10 days, then there is a possibility of increase of pitta dosha in the body, so which may be resulting in the form of burning sensation or some kind of the skin eruptions from the body, or sometimes headache specifically occurring when exposure to the sun, or some kind sometimes in the mid noon, etc., etc. These are different variations that may be observed in the person who is consuming sour buttermilk. So that is a pattern identification. So that is wide presentation is there, but soul is this sour buttermilk consumption. That is the main cause for this. So this is a pattern identification. So that means so we have to avoid sour buttermilk. So that is a pattern modification. And third thing, pattern creation. We have to consume the substances which are having a devoid of the soreness in that particular substances. So or otherwise take the simple milk or simple warm water. Simple warm water consumption is actually reducing the pitta dosha in the body from the alimentary canal. So this is how pattern identification, pattern modification, and pattern creation, which are considered to be the essential motto of the Acharya Nidana Academy. So that's how we have to look into even other areas of identifying the pattern also. For example, the doing the exercise, naturally it is having an pattern identification as Vata dosha prakopa may be there. Consumption of the thick milk, kapha dosha increase. So like that, so we have to identify the for each and every aspect we have to know about the pattern identification. And no compromise is being done in learning or in explaining the Ayurveda fundamentals. So in that will be keep in mind, and then only we are going into the further subject as such, right? Then how to gather the information from the point of the proper learning. Actually, Ayurveda learning is like a new language. Learning a new language. So that means the most frequently used terms we have to learn first. Then, so we have to identify the meaning for that. Then we have to go for the less practiced words. Then only the proper learning will be very faster. So that means, so if you want to have the Ayurveda information, so you have to take Ayurveda information as a whole, and we have to the what do you say, the learn from that point of view only, and we have to take the Western medicine from that particular part. So that means it's just like the railway track. On the one side, it is Ayurveda information. On the other side, it is the Western information. At different intervals, we are having the connections between the two lines. So that means we are going into the learning or the information mixing at different intervals, so that the proper learning can be imprinted for longer time. So this is how we have to take the what do you say, the we have to take the help of Western medicine and Ayurveda information, so that we can move ahead in the learning journey. Today, we are going to discuss something very three important concepts which are necessary to internalize the concepts of Roganidana. First one, that is composition of the body. Second, the applied aspects of Stirling forces. Third, the applied aspects of sludged blood or sludging of blood. So these are the three concepts we are going to learn today. First, regarding the composition of the human body. When you think of human body, so this is a schematic representation of human body. Nearly around 66% of the human body is consisting of water. Among that, two-third is present inside the cells and one-third is present outside the cells. Right? And rest of them, that is nearly around 33%, 32 to 33% is remaining, which is considered to be, among that, three-fourth of that, nearly around 24% is considered to be formed of proteins, and 8%, 8 to 9% is considered to be formed of carbohydrate, fat, and other materials. 66% is water portion, the 24% is protein portion, and 8% is considered to be carbohydrate, fat, etc., etc. So that means when you think of the protein, so structural proteins, that is the part of the cells, then enzymes, nucleoproteins which are present inside the nucleus, and the proteins that transport the oxygen, and the proteins of the muscle, etc., which cause the contraction, they are made up of proteins only. So that means the major portion that is considered to be responsible for the physiological function is considered to be proteins, and the one which is considered to be formed because of normal function, that is pathogen, is considered to be a protein only. Right? And second major thing that you need to learn, that is Stirling forces. Stirling forces are the forces. So this particular video, you need to look into the concept of avarana. Right? Just below, look into that, you will be learning that about it. Right? And regarding the Stirling forces as such, what is this Stirling forces? So these are the forces, they are actually acting across the capillaries. The human body is consisting of nearly around 10 billion capillaries. So that means even the alimentary canal is consisting of some amount of the capillaries. So if a person is taking any of the food substance which is responsible for the inflammation, so that is actually releasing the proteins. These proteins are entering into the, what do you say, that the into the uh, capillaries. So thereby it is getting into the circulation there. So they are nothing but the proteins only. They are going into the different parts of the body. so that uh, they may get into the interstitial spaces when there is the damage is happening in that particular capillaries. So the Stirling forces are the forces they are acting across the capillary membranes, which are actually generated by the water, the proteins, and the electrolytes present in the capillaries and in the interstitial spaces. These are actually responsible for the transport of the nutrients and metabolites across the capillary membranes. So look into that particular video to have this particular uh, proper understanding of this. And third thing, that is actually sludged blood. Sludged blood is nothing but the slow movement happening after the transport of the water, nutrients, etc., from the arterial end to the venous end. When you think of this, there are two images are there. One image is showing the milk and the other image is showing the honey. When you think of the liquid, that is milk, it is just like the fluid portion that is present at the arterial end of the capillary. When you think of the honey, it is just like the fluid that is similar to the fluid that is present at the venous end of the capillary. So that means when there is movement of the water and other nutrients happening from the capillary end to the interstitial space, naturally, so that is responsible for its slower movement of the blood at the venous end of the capillary. This is what is considered to be sludged blood. Whenever there is any kind of the inflammation or in inflammatory pathology is happening in the interstitial spaces, more amount of this particular the water or fluid portion as well as other proteins entering into the interstitial space, thereby the thickness or the viscosity of the venous end of the capillary that is going to get increased, which is one of the initiating factor for the what do you say that the initiation of avarana pathology. So combining the all three above concepts, most of the components which are responsible for the disease are considered to be proteins, which are present either inside the cells or outside the cells. Stirling forces acting across the capillary, so that will be leading to the movement of the proteins across the capillaries. So that means whether it is physiological or whether it is pathological, both are entering across the capillaries from the abnormal Stirling forces. And Stirling forces can come into play even in the alimentary canal also, because the is there any inflammation is happening in the stomach, etc., what actually happens? So there is increased proteins are observed in the stomach, which may be responsible for the transfer of the what do you say that the fluid or etc., from the alimentary canal into the or the mucus of the from the blood vessels from the capillary of the alimentary canal into the alimentary canal. So the degree of Stirling forces that vary according to the components of ingested blood. So that means components, suppose if the person is having the consumption of food without proper the oral hygiene, the microbes they enter into the alimentary canal. So thereby what actually happens? So that is, and the we know that the in the stomach the food may remain for a period of almost 2 hours, and if there is the less hydrochloric acid is present in the stomach, naturally, so these microbes are not going to get attenuated. They are responsible for the inflammation to happen, thereby this fluid etc that is entering into the stomach there. So that's how the contents of the ingested food is responsible for the what do you say the pathological events to happen in the stomach. Whenever the movement of the proteins happen occur in the capillary, So this may be responsible for the decreased oncotic pressure in the capillary. So that means more amount of the proteins they are moving from the capillary into the interstitial space, that is responsible for the decreased oncotic pressure in the body. So thereby the person may be having the increased interstitial space or interstitial compartment is going to get swollen, which is one of the initiating factor for the mechanism of pathological events initiation. And reduced proteins in the capillary, which may be responsible for, as we have discussed, responsible for the increased proteins in the interstitial compartment as well as intracellular compartment. The take home message from the today's discussion, as we have discussed at the beginning, every pathogen present in the body is a protein. To understand the concept of to understand the movement of pathogen, we need to learn the concept of Stirling forces and sludged blood. Both are mentioned in the context of Varana. Look into that particular point there. And when there is abnormal Stirling forces occur in the capillary, that will lead to decreased or slower movement of the substances happening across the capillary membrane. So that means initially from the arterial end there will be more amount of the fluid that will be moving from the capillary to the interstitial space. From the venous end onwards there will be slower movement. This is what is considered to be sludged blood. Combine all these three concepts: proteins as maximum concentration next to water, Stirling forces and sludged blood. We have to know these to have a deeper understanding of the concepts of Roganidana. That's all for today. Dear members and dear newcomers, dear Ayurveda enthusiasts, what are the key learnings? What are the three key learnings you have learned from this video mentioned below? And what would you like to learn in the coming video mentioned below? And if you are truly liking this particular video, then spread this video to the maximum true Ayurveda learners, so that from this small message we can make a movement. Movement in the sense, the larger group of people, they are going to think the same way as you are thinking. So which is very very essential and need of the hour at present to the whole Ayurveda fraternity. That's all for today. Something more in the next video. Thank you.